Morning.
I'd like to welcome everybody here to the Monday, October 3rd Park and Recreation meeting. It is now 7 o'clock and we're to start the meeting. We do have 3 current commissioners here and a 4th one will be joining once they finish up their other duty that they have assigned to them. And we do also have our 5th commissioner, Fred Milan, joining us via the Owl or Zoom meeting. So we're on the way to Fred, who's in the background.
Can't see your
camera. Can we hear her? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Tonight we have guests, we have some special guests, everyone's great here. So what we're gonna do is actually kind of move the order around. I think with Katie here, our assistant town manager, that might even answer some of the questions that the group here representing the skate park might help kind of bring to light. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna go to Katie first, and then we'll come back to open public comment, if that's okay. Perfect then. All right, well, welcome, Katie, the assistant town manager here tonight. So Katie, the floor is yours.
You want to stay right here?
You sure? Yeah.
You're going to come up.
Where is for that?
I was gonna do. I know.
We're getting used to it. We can all have a good meeting before.
I have to say, we did a staff training in here the other day and the trainer asked that we always be in this room forevermore. It's so beautiful, so we're working on that. Sunset? Yeah, the view. It's very distracting. But thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking me out of order. So the context of me being on the agenda is really a follow-up to when the commission went to the select board meeting in August, talked about shared priorities for the year ahead. A lot of that discussion actually was about how many needs we're all hearing, you're hearing around active recreational activities and trying to figure out what is the playbook for matching those needs with land we either already have or land we don't have. So that coming out of that discussion brought me to draft a working group charge that's in your packet. It's a draft, it's not gone to the select board yet. Really, I could walk through what I proposed and what's on paper, and really my hope is that I can get feedback from all of you. Does this look right? Are there any changes that need to be made? I will say the select board's meeting on the 11th, so if there's consensus here, I can bring the updated document to them at their next meeting to making it actionable. And I think the last thing before I run through the working group charges, Stacy had mentioned, and I did see it in your agenda packet for your $30,000 feasibility study. So I'd love to get a sense, maybe to get a sense from you all what you're thinking about with that and how that jives now that this working group is before you. Like, I guess I have some questions about that. So the working group as drafted would be appointed by the select board in terms of appointments. The vice chair is responsible for that, so you've worked with him in the past, so we're working collaboratively on any appointments that are made. Our thinking is that the group would start meeting as soon as it's constituted and go through the end of the fiscal year. And the composition is the 9 voting members. So 2 from the select board, 2 from this commission, and 1 each from conservation commission, school committee, finance committee, and the community preservation committee. And then the 9th member would be an at-large community member. Welcome your input on that. And really the purpose of the group is to be advisory. And I'm going to read the charge out of order because I'm making a note to edit this myself. But I think the goal really is seek public input, make sure we kind of feel like we have a full view of the active recreational needs that are not being met right now. And then for each of those needs, figure out what are the asset requirements for them. From their inventory, what land and buildings we already have. And where do those meet the needs versus not, and then what potential acquisitions might we want to think about for the future. And then the group would make recommendations. So that's kind of the playbook for kind of what I felt like I was hearing from that discussion back in August, but open up for thoughts, comments, edits.
No, I mean, I think this is great. I'll actually ask like 2 or 3 commissioners if they have any comments first, and then I'll kind of take it up at the end. So Cindy Chapman, any questions, comments, feedback?
I'd like to be constituted. I think that's every group is represented. There would be a stakeholder. I think I was trying to think if there's anyone else that has property. And I don't think there is another group. I don't have somebody from the library should be included. I don't think so. Trying to think if it's or the CAF, for example, from the Council on Aging or something, but I don't think so at this point. So I like the constitution of the group. In terms of inventorying the town's existing assets, that's a pretty big job, right? So, I don't know if we have something already that might be able to do 75% of that. And hoping that we do, I'm not sure that we do, but I think we might, because that's a big job. I can start from scratch, right, to do that. So just be concerned with that. I mean, it's probably necessary, but I think that's a pretty big job. It's probably a staff job. Right? And certainly I could go and list a lot of stuff. You can give to Chris and he could add to and give it to Michelle, but
Yeah, it's a great point, and if I could, the open space.
Open space plan?
Recreation plan,
yeah.
that is somewhat dated now. I think that was left off in 2017, 2016, but it does have an inventory. So I think really for us, the work is what has changed since then to now. And I think that's something we can wrap our hands around. So luckily, I think a lot of the work is done. And in that open space plan, it has so much more assets than would be applicable to active recreation. It had trails and, it just had some things that
Actually, it was part of that group.
would,
so I-
yeah, exactly.
So that should have a line, and luckily that's something.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
property is what the property is.
So I think we've had some transfers since then, but I think we can
Right, they could be.
figure that out. Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, I like this. I don't know if I'm going to talk here how this is going to dovetail with our $30,000 capital investment we'd like to put in, because we don't want to put the cart before the horse, which I'm gonna guess might be how you were seeing it, but so we need to talk more about that. But as a commission, we have made a decision that we wanted to give some priority to a skate park of some kind. And we felt like the only way to get that started, right, was to do a feasibility study, because we couldn't commit to a skate park without actually doing some feasibility study. So, and we didn't want to lose it in the season. So that's so, but certainly we would, things, commission would acquiesce to.
Yeah.
New town manager was like.
Yeah, okay.
But I think that's it. Otherwise, I think you have hit the nail on the head of what, at least what I had.
And I do think one of the caveats to the feasibility study was to say of the three priorities that we have, and of the land that we have within our jurisdiction, what would be feasible on that end. So it's not just, it's not exclusively evaluating a skate park, but there are other projects that we've identified as being high priority. So determining which land could accommodate which project. So it's not to keep it strictly to one project. So keeping it broad enough to evaluate all, so it's not, I don't think we're trying to necessarily, we have a priority list, but we also, I feel it's very important to understand the cost of what it would take to actually fulfill one of these projects, which I think is my concern with this group is we're going to all get together and talk about priorities and all the land options, but we don't have an idea of what the cost could be and the feasibility of doing that on any of the pockets of land. So I'm concerned by the time that this working group finishes, that all we're going to do is have land and priorities, and we still don't have any feasibility on any of the land discussed. And I think the feasibility is what's going to drive priority. So we're it's a chicken and egg scenario. So that's my concern. That one reason forward.
Can you ask Brett if she wants to comment on?
I told her to raise her hand, and she is good right now. Thank
Okay.
you. I do want to say that if anybody that we have 5 attendees in the audience, and so if anybody has a question, please put them in the question and answer, and we will read them and answer them here.
Perfect. I think we're all in a general consensus that this is the right way. I know when you look at certain groups, you're like, wow, 9, that seems like a lot of people, but it's 9 groups that all are affected by this. I mean, with regards to Park and Rec, Select Board, we have common goals, we want to get out there and working with them instead of them working on one project, us working on a different project, let's collaborate and get it all together. Also with the conservation, it's great to incorporate them too, because everyone's gonna have great ideas like, could we, should we, can we do this? To involve a group like that, to let us know these are the parameters that you can work in, because we don't want to get these visions of grandeur and thinking, oh, we're gonna do this to make it bigger and make it better. When we found out we can't put it in a certain place because of certain restrictions and certain items, so we all want to be working on that same common goal. And I think it's great having those people all in one room and continuously meeting, because it seems in the past, it's a group works on a project and then you gotta bring the other group up to date, and then the other group's gotta get up to date, so kind of have everybody working on it at once and kind of sharing the workload. I think it's a great idea. But I do agree with Michelle and Cindy's comments of, the feasibility of, we want to do the work and then we want to execute. So that's why we're kind of looking to see what we can do, is that I might have an idea thinking, oh, this is a great place, but then someone else might have, oh, this would be a better place for it. Okay, great, now we determine the place, you don't have costs associated with that. So we're just kind of like spinning our wheels. So that's why we kind of want to get some numbers out there so we can at least know, is it going to be this much? Is it going to be less than what we anticipated or more than what we anticipated? So that's one of the biggest things that we
I think, this is a little broader than what we might have in mind. Because looking at ice hockey listed there, and I don't know that that has ever been under our purview. Because we're kind of very, don't know that I'm crazy about hockey. I mean, I think there is a lot of interest in hockey. I don't know that that's what Park and Rec is thinking about. But there's other people here besides us, so I would make that comment. And the other was the option off leash dog areas. We really didn't have anything to do with the last dog park. I don't know that you were that interested in it. I didn't say that, but I don't know, we're interested in a dog park as a park and rec commission, but I don't know, maybe we don't hear much about it, but maybe you folks at the town meetings level or the select board level hear more about requesting dog parks. So those would be my two comments.
The only if I can comment back on that, and I'm spitballing here. Years ago, we talked about possibly doing a temporary ice hockey outdoor arena. I mean, and that's what I think we were looking at. I mean, in regards to building a structure, I mean, that's way out of our elements of what we do. So I mean, if it's something locally that may be a temporary thing, I think that's something we explored years ago, but never, get it to go. But I think a structure of that mass, it's just that's way beyond our capability. So.
Could I comment back on that, Mr. Chair? Just on those two topics, I do think, hockey we have not heard about lately, but right before COVID, there was a lot of public discussion. And then off leash dogs, we've heard a lot about since the pandemic, a lot of interest in folks wanting space, where they could, have actually off leash dogs. So I think, my goal in putting it in here was, I think partially because there may be some sports that are park and rec priorities that select board owns land that might be more appropriate, but it could also happen in the reverse. So I think having that conversation, like you said, with everyone involved, dogs might not be of any interest to this commission, but maybe it is the select board and someone else, and seeing kind of holistically what land we have might help. But I would say this is a quite broad list, and so there is nothing in this charge kind of committing that we're doing all of these things, because we have not met and decided that, and also cost and all of the other things. So I think, just so that I'm clear, the goal is, what are the needs that we're hearing from the community, and what assets do we have that match up? Decisions about what projects are we moving forward, on what timeline within the capital budget, all comes after this. So it's a long duration kind of thought process.
It's a lot, but I mean, I'd rather have a lot and whittle down to what we can do. So we got a big broad and then bring it down to a more focused area. I think that's the right thing to do. And as noted, I mean, we're hearing about sports parks, pickleball, skate parks, action park. These are all things that, you want to give everybody their fair, shape of what we can do. So to have multiple ideas that we can put in multiple locations, it's a smart thing to do, just so you're not looking at one focus at one time. you're opening up the search as much as possible. Okay, so please.
And it sounds like this is just for a short amount of time through the year. Would you expect that this would happen on a recurring basis? Because I would expect that we're going to continuously have lots of projects, more projects than we have land. Like, do you expect this will just be a recurring route that happens regularly, or how? Because those are like different processes we had before.
Yeah. That's a great question. I put it together not thinking it would be an ongoing permanent thing, but I think if there's interest in the group or if people feel like it makes our planning more thoughtful, you know, I think it would be up for discussion for this commission and the select board to think about over the long term.
Stacy, any comments?
Not on that topic, but we are hearing that the folks cannot hear us very well at home, so especially those of you on that side of the room, they can hear you fine. So the speaker, the owl are picking things up as well as we would like
Okay.
in the echo.
Speak loudly.
My only comment is, I think we need to have everybody in the room to have these discussions, and we need to start with that and figure out where that goes. You know, I'm happy to run in any direction, but I think it's important, like he said, we have a lot of asks that would be better suited potentially for land that we don't own. And we have a lot of other people asking for things that might be better suited to the land that we do own. And the ownership lines are kind of all over the place, so it'd be good to find that out and then figure out how to go from there, but what we want on whoever's space.
Did you have another question?
A question, do you think that playgrounds should be included here? Should playgrounds be separate, because we are, I mean, we have a whole report on playgrounds, and we're trying to move forward with that and trying to, you know, upgrade all of our playgrounds and coming up with that. I don't know that I thought of playgrounds as an ask from the public that's different from what we've heard all along. So I don't know that that should be in charge of this group, but what do you think?
My only comment is personally, no. But not personally. I do get a lot of requests for additional playgrounds in town on a fairly regular basis. People want more playgrounds. I don't know that our department or the town can handle more. But it is something that comes up more often than you would think.
So you think it should be part of the school? Because I hadn't thought of it, I'm interested to see it here, it's interesting.
If the commission is leaning towards that one stellar super duper playground. And prioritize the one playground and making that ADA and everything's like inclusive, maybe. But if we're gonna stick with what we have and just upgrade, then I don't think it needs to be in part of this.
I don't know that we've made that decision.
No, we bounced it back and forth a bunch, but no, we haven't.
So that's.
But that's.
Yeah, I mean, I really would defer to you all on the playgrounds. We've not heard much about it, but that would tend to come your way.
I mean, my idea for this group was for the, those things that were being asked about skate park,
Yeah.
action park, pickleball, tennis complex, you know, whatever else, basketball courts, right? And not necessarily playgrounds, because that's part of what we're trying to do on an ongoing basis, right? So not, these things are the things that we don't have.
Yep.
Playgrounds we have, whether or not somebody thinks we have enough, or we have the right mix of features and different stories. So I don't know that I.
Any other questions for the commission? Any questions in the Zoom?
Not about this.
The public. Since you're here, yeah, hi, how you doing? I mean, again, I'm knowing, you know, your commitment to the skate park and items on this, I feel fall right into the category. What do you post?
Yeah, so,
Can you state your name and address?
yeah, Josh Conlon, 22 Oakers.
Thank you.
Good, you know, as always seen before. But Lindsay and I keep doing, but, we, you know, one of the reasons we're here, this is our new recruit. We, Needham Can joined the Harvest Fest, we had a Needham Can build a skate park table. We got really actually amazing support.
Yeah.
For dragging people in to help us out. We had literally hundreds of signatures, 10 people really all about this thing. And you guys have obviously heard that from us, other folks, as well as select board and other government folks in town. But you know, we were discussing with one of the select board members, and you had mentioned discussions you guys have had all this summer, which is basically leading to this discussion of open space and capital planning, both as far as assets and money, right? And our understanding was that there was a thought to form a committee for the skate park. I don't know if that was sort of completed, like that committee that we're talking about now. To get that formed and try to get stuff moving forward with that stuff and try to organize it so it actually gets consolidated and worked on instead of an internal discussion. Related to discussion about feasibility, cost, et cetera. I have 4 firms ready to give us a proposal for a feasibility study. What that will include, which will include, is soup to nuts, everything from ground testing, whatever capabilities we don't have, that would be cheaper for them to do that we can't do, survey, stuff like that. I don't know what capabilities we have available. Everything from that through, they would run 2 or 3, depending on what's needed, public comment sessions for input on area, what's needed, what's wanted, stuff like that. With the end of this, coming out with a buildable design plan. My understanding of the discussions with these firms, the cost of that is about 30 to 50. And you literally walk away with that with something you can hand to RFP for development. So Lindsay and I came, because we're going to keep letting you guys. But Lindsay and I actually came to sort of understand where you guys are processed from our understanding of select board members that the desire was to move forward and get a skate park committee together. Obviously, Lindsay and I are volunteering ourselves to do that. And there's plenty of other people around town that want to help out. I just want to sort of understand where you guys were in the process and what we could do to help get everything moving forward.
That's great. Lindsay, any comments?
What is it?
Lindsay, what's your address?
47 minutes.
Thank you.
Perfect. I mean, I think this is the right direction that we're looking at, of getting these groups and getting everybody's fine. I mean, as you said, it's great that you have, 3 or 4 companies looking to do a feasibility study. That's a great start because I mean, we're looking at certain places we might want to do things. They might have different places that we're looking at.
Right, just and as you're saying, there's obviously competing interests around town, right? And land is the thing that we're not building anymore.
Yeah.
So we understand the difficulty of doing that. And, you know, as Stacey and I can explore this for the past couple of years. And I've done this before, so people in the industry who are doing it. So I think there are, once we get moving forward, we have all that stuff that we can roll. So.
So that's great. Any comments from the commission? Stacy, Fabian?
Katie does.
Katie?
I have one more. Just on this feasibility study component, I think you all know this, that the challenge with the timeline is that, our budget process starts so far out. So, Stacy is like 3 weeks out from having to submit 2 weeks
October 17th.
our capital budget submissions. And so I think what I'm hearing from you is you didn't want to miss the cycle because then you're out a year, which I completely, that makes a lot of sense. So, but I do want some clarity because I think Stacey and I have to do some work on shaping what that actually is. Because if this group gets constituted and doesn't have recommendations until kind of June, July, town meeting is voting on this feasibility study in May. And so knowing what they're voting on, how we plan to spend that money, I don't think it is entirely putting the cart before the horse, because I think that there is a logic to getting in the queue and not missing another year. But I think it has to have some level of specificity where you know, all the stakeholders understand what the money is going to be used for. So I think, is it going to be dedicated, you're saying kind of all sports, is it site specific and what sports can go there? Is it, sport specific and saying what are the costs associated with an action sports park? You know, I think those are two different studies. And so what we put on paper kind of in the fall can certainly get refined, but kind of around the edges, not in its entirety, as we go through the budget process. So, I think a scenario where there's a study for putting costs around a specific sport in a specific location is something that could get submitted now and say the recommendations of what sport at what location for that study is gonna come out of this group. That might be a way to thread the needle. This is just brainstorming at this point, but I don't want to be kind of having all of us, the commission included, in a position where you've submitted a capital request item that no longer jives with the outcome here.
But it's also, we don't want to throw something up there just for the sake of putting it up there. I mean, we want to have some backing behind it and want to be able to do it, that it makes sense to do it. But I mean, when you look at it, say $30,000 compared to some of the other projects there, that's very short money, but again, that's $30,000. We want to put in the right direction and have to be specific of why we're asking. So I think it comes down to wording of how we want to work, word it to finance and word it to town government to say this is how and why we want to ask for this money. We're not just asking for it for the sake of it. We want to have a good understanding and show why we want to ask. Okay.
If we're working, when there's a way to adjust the timeline of the group too, to align with the deadline of when we need to vote, and I feel like it seems like a long time to say 8 months to determine to have to meet. I was thinking we're meeting regularly, monthly, the working group will be working regularly. So I'm just wondering if we can adjust when the deadline of this group would provide recommendations to align with the voting of town meeting, which would be May. So instead of having recommendations by the end of the fiscal year in June, having it end the quarter early, so you're ending in April.
Yes, I like the thought process. I think the challenge is the votes in May, but finance committee starts reviewing kind of December, January, February. The warrant is out in February, so the timeline of town meeting itself is so elongated that I'm not sure that would get us anything, and I don't want to give the working group too short of a time to do the work they need to do. So I think if the commission feels strongly about kind of where do you need the most expertise to go out and pay somebody to give you information that you don't feel like you have right now? If it's what assets do we already own and where of those assets, where can Action Sports Park even fit? I think we could do that as the working group. If it's costing something out, maybe that's where you need an expert to come in. Because, frankly, from a staff perspective, like I can't cost that out. So I think just, if you can think through it, kind of maybe give Stacy and I some more feedback so that we can shape something that gives you an opportunity to not miss a funding cycle without asking for something that isn't ready yet.
I mean, we want it to be successful. If we're gonna ask, we want it to be
Yeah.
successful. If it's not
Yeah.
really successful, then we're better off to wait.
Right.
Totally.
Okay, so when would you want us to get you this information?
Yes,
I mean, is it that to like end of the week, like tomorrow? I mean, what do we?
My stuff has to be done, submitted, signed by October 17th.
Okay.
So that gives, I need to do the research on it.
Right.
It's not.
I
I mean,
I think we can.
I mean, I've read through the OSRP like 4 times, which is because I was finally in trying to get the skate park done. But, like, doesn't that have an asset, planned asset list in there that just needs to be built up? And to Michelle's point of this really should be a renewable thing because stuff changes.
Right.
Once you have it built once, you can keep going, and 2017 was OSRP has
It's got.
90% of it. in there.
I mean, there's been some changes, but you're right, the fields are the fields, right? We haven't acquired, well, the property, but we haven't acquired much since then. Jurisdictional lines may have changed a little, but yeah. I think the issue is that we don't, at least I don't, have in mind, if we wanted to build a skate action park, where's the right place for it? I can't say to Katie and Stacy, okay, we want to put it at Claxton.
Right.
In that space along Central Ave, clearly I keep looking down and drive by. We want something there. And we want it to be a skate park, but no, I'm not sure about that, right? So I don't know that we honed in on anything like that. And I don't get this.
No. I would like to have something to Stacy by the end of this week.
Yeah, no, I just think. Again, I absolutely agree that we need to broaden the scope, get people in to prioritize. I also think when we're doing land swaps, that takes a lot of time, like I do think we need to think of what is realistic to get done with parcels that we have that are usable. And so, again, I appreciate the interest in looking at all the space in Needham and all the projects that could ever exist across Needham, but my concern is we're gonna be paralyzed by the amount of options that we have and not enough information. So I worry that we're gonna be slowing down opportunities to move things ahead that have been discussed, have been vetted through Park and Rec, have been prioritized, have been put on the capital plan. And we're pausing and missing years of potential opportunity to work on them because of some of the broadening of the scope. So, which is why I would recommend trying to narrow down the plan to see if it's feasible to get something in, into the next year's rotation.
Right, I mean, and I know you have to have it in by the 17th. You don't want to drop on your desk the 16th.
No,
So that, I want to say, by this Friday, that we're all going to do, how we're going to draft or get the language. Get it to you, to look it over and see what we need to add, delete and edit, that I would like to have something to you by Friday at the latest that we can go to execute.
So first, I don't know if I'm even allowed to be involved, but if I can be helpful in any of that, I'm offering my help. I wonder if there's like a both and. I know that I'm sort of an interested party in this, but is it possible to do this more constrained specific ask this time around with the idea that a broader space use committee still gets formed to continue to move forward with a broader suite of things and some kind of with some sort of parameters.
No, I mean, I like that idea. I mean, I think it's great that Michelle came up with the, hey, why is it just 1 year? Why can't we kind of come, do? Because as we all know, needs change. Equipment might change. There might be something that we haven't thought about that isn't out there yet, that in a year from now, I'm like, hey, this would be a great addition to something that's out there. So you kind of keep it moving and, look for the new ideas out there. So, I mean, I think we can get specific, but also have a main goal in line of other projects that are there. So,
I was just gonna say, who will be kind of chairing or leading the discussions of this work group? Because as I look at all the different stakeholders that are gonna be sitting at the table, there can be a lot of different interests, priorities, and so on. So it can get very kind of messy unless somebody is leading, a strong leader, kind of leading these discussions and with a little bit of a plan and priority list themselves. So is that something that's been thought of already?
No, because this is the first discussion, but, it's a select board appointed group, so I imagine that one of the two select board members
Okay,
would chair, and I think it would be obviously, in the past, I think it's always been collegial if there wanted to be a co-chair from the Park and Rec Commission, but I would leave that to the,
I would try to be select board would probably. share.
yeah,
okay,
because they're constituting
okay.
it.
But then I think it'd be smart to have someone from the park and rec vice chair. So you have kind of. both.
Yeah, that'd be very-
What?
Yeah.
I have to say it again.
It's very
Just has an expertise, I mean, it does kind of make sense to have that, you know, somebody to be chair or co-chair, just to be able to get that input and just to say realistically what can take place and is best for the community and all that, so.
And I just, I know timelines are always feel so long. The irony is that this working group was actually to expedite, because without it, any money that we get isn't getting even put into play until next July. So we would actually have lost kind of this whole time. So I think it's a little counterintuitive to feel like this is expediting things, but that it was actually the hope that we would have more information by the start of next fiscal year than than we would otherwise, if this working group didn't exist. So,
Okay.
but if you wanted to be specific and pick a sport and pick a location and submit a budget request and just have that be context for this working group, you have that option.
Okay.
I think it's just, I was worried that the feasibility study, that the intent of it was duplicative of this. But you can change that.
Can I ask you a question? Would you be taking either getting a representative from the finance committee, conservation committee? And what's the other? School,
Yeah.
or is that more the select board that they would be reaching out? For that?
The select board vice chair is officially in charge of all appointments, but procedurally, when we have other committee members, we tend to just go through the staff liaison to that other committee and ask them who they would want to recommend from their group. So I think the real kind of interview process might be more for that community member at large as opposed to the board representatives. Yeah.
All right, anything else in your comments? We've got one more. Start off the meeting all right with that. Anything else from you, Katie?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you
for the
very
time.
much.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so.
Katie, as always, you're welcome to stay.
Thank you. And as always, I'm going to decline. Town government is a nocturnal sport.
Perfect. All right, so that was the second item on our agenda. Again, Katie, thank you very much. Open forum, public comment, anything in the Zoom or any
Yeah.
hands raised?
Yes.
Fantastic.
And I will do the speaking, so, this person came to me via email and I talked to him on the phone. But I'll read this request so that everybody can hear me at home. On behalf of the hundreds of tennis players in town, we have submitted our request to Ms. Stacy Mulroy to install floodlights. Sport lighting at one of the tennis court arenas in town. Ms. Stacy mentioned that this request will be discussed during this meeting. We look forward to that.
Okay.
So there is a gentleman, Iman, and I do apologize if I said your name wrong. But he did email me and reach out to me a couple times, and I finally got back to him, and they would like some sport lighting at one of the tennis court locations. I did inform him that it is a much broader process and it takes a long time, and that we would be, as part of the design for the high school, that would be part of the discussion and the design to see if it's feasible at the high school. And I did let him know about the neighbors over there, which may be difficult.
Will there be an
And,
impact?
yeah, and that anytime we do over a complete reno of any of our courts, that would always come into play. But I didn't know where the commission, we haven't talked about adding lighting to any fields or courts outside of a major renovation. It has never, as far as I've been here, it's never been a scandal.
Given that the high school board is one of the options. be renovated, would we even consider doing that if that was happening in the near term? Like, would we consider doing something in the interim before?
We wouldn't be able to,
Okay, so this is requesting it as part of any renovation that is done.
any renovation.
Okay,
And my guess is if the courts weren't already in process for design, and that this would be another request to put like at one of our conferences. But we won't know about that until the design comes to an end and we have public meetings and we go through zoning and all of this.
No, I agree. I mean, it's a noble idea, but it's not as easy as just, hey, we're gonna throw up some lights. I mean, at any, all the other tennis courts, Mills and Newman, there's also neighbors that are, for all those courts. So even at Pollard, if we were to use that, it's still you're bordering something that you have to do public comments that you just can't.
Well, it would be, in general, it would be a capital project
Right.
request. It would start in the bid process, nowhere. It's nowhere on our 10-year plan, but it's never come up. It's always been folded in as a renovation project for a current facility.
So with the option of the tennis courts at the high school being looked at, we can actually add this to the scope to see if it's a feasible.
Yep, and it will be,
That's fine.
it is, and I'm working on the scope actually today. It is part of the request to look when we design to see if it is feasible to put there. And then obviously we would have to go through the chain of requests to get that.
So the feasibility would identify what the cost would be. So if it's an
Yes.
extra $25,000.
Yeah, so the design of this, so the Tedford design will first look to see if it can be a repair. I would be surprised if that's true, or if it's a complete renovation. And then it will look at the cost for renovating the courts as they are, renovating them and adding courts if possible. And both of those would include the option of lights, cost, process, all of that. So it will be rolled into this.
Okay.
There are no lights there. There have been lights there before. The high school would be.
Yeah, any courts,
No, I don't
but
know.
anywhere.
We do not.
Okay. All right. Great. Another question? No, okay. Questions?
So the conversation that was just had was exciting
Mhm.
potentially. And it sounds as though for a feasibility study proposal to go through, there have to be a lot of specifics in terms of what would it be for and potentially what the location is. And so I wonder, Stacy, if you can say a little bit more about like what details would have to be specified by October 17th and where there is room for saying, well, maybe this is what we want, but we're not sure where it could go. And so some question of location is still open.
So it can be as specific as we want it to be, like we can say, we want this kind of project, we want it in this location, and we want to know how much. And it can be broader. The cost will range completely depending on these things, so we could also say we're looking for the possibility of a skate park in Needham that is not turning over, but at a new facility. Where could that potentially go? What would the cost be? And then it can be, it's literally anywhere between. It's really all on how we write the design, and we can also, depending on feasibility study, like I've done where I've requested, give us your proposal up to $25,000. What will that get us? Or we can do a request, an RFQ, where we say, this is what we want, tell us how much it is. So there's a lot of different avenues. They're all slow, just so we're aware. But those are the two ways. We can name a price and say, what can you tell us for this? Or we can say, this is what we really need to know. How much is it gonna cost? And that's just design. And then the design will give us all the prices. And then we, through whatever public process or internal process, we choose one, and then it goes out for construction.
And so I guess just like a follow-up question, because I know space is such a question mark. Is it we're sort of kicking up the dollar amount a little bit in recognition that there may need to be some consideration of multiple sites, or is that like, I just don't know where $30,000 comes from.
$30,000 is a general, like, it's an average cost for a design. From some of the firms that we, whether it's a playground or if we've looked at fields before. I did one in a prior community where they tried to find a location for an indoor pool. They didn't.
That's about
But-
right. You guys move.
Yeah, and if you call any of these design firms, you say,
You're getting
give me a
those
ballpark,
prices.
yeah. Their ballparks are, 25 to 50, so it's,
Okay.
somewhere in there.
These was we need to write it, so that the finance committee and the town manager and her staff can support it.
Right.
Because if it's too loose, if it's not tight enough with enough specificity, then we're not gonna get them to support it, which makes sense. But I really don't want to put it forward and have them turn it down, and then have to resubmit it, because I mean, that could happen, but we prefer to not go that route, right? You prefer to be successful up front. And so if it feels like you can't submit a good plan, then I would suspect we would say, let's pull it back and let's do a good plan. And if we have to lose a season, which, kills all of us, we'll do that. But it just has to be in good enough shape and a good enough request that we know what we want, that the finance committee and the town manager can just like.
So I can reach out to these guys in the next week and say, hey, can you give us an idea of what a design study would cost? And what it would include, and hey, here's 3 spaces theoretically. And just so,
That would help because that's the information that I'm gonna be calling
Right.
people for.
I can say, hey, here's Claxton, there's a bunch of room here. Where would it fit, like, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? And here's Cricket, here's Phasio, and what theoretically would work for you guys, and what would a study look like, so that you guys know when you're going into this thing, when you get your land study and your space study, you say, okay, well, this is gonna cost X, and this is gonna cost us, but to understand what we get, this is what we get. So,
I think it's a huge help. Definitely.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
If there's anything else that we can be helpful with, please just say.
Absolutely. Thank you. Oh,
Thank you.
and thank you.
Yeah, it's all free.
Thank you.
Your son, my assistant coach for flag.
Oh, great. Free one.
I'm not kidding.
You got it. Go line. All right. All right, let's see, so we've gone through our first 2 items on the agenda, in regards to chairs updates, nothing that, sticking out right now, but I know that they have some comments, some of the other items kind of listed in the agenda, so now we will jump to the director's report.
Great. Thank you. All right, other than the color game. But it looks better. So. Would you like me to pull this up?
No.
Okay.
My brain is kind of.
So memberships, I updated the numbers for court versus August, pre-August and after September 1. They went up a total of 3 memberships in total since the last time I ran the numbers for you, which is interesting because Fabian had some people speak their mind to him about pickleball, and those people do not have memberships.
Really now.
So, not surprising. But I don't know what we're gonna get between now and the end of the season or the first snow or whatever it is. We should, as a commission, decide, so for the last 2 years, we have not taken down tennis nets, and we have not locked the courts. We should make a decision if we are gonna change that process this year. The courts themselves. Mills, we are looking for parts, trying to fix, there is a broken net, so we're trying to fix that. The nets we've had to replace, we chose to do that on purpose because of COVID. We don't know that we want to keep that going. but we should decide at some point before the first snow, so that we can at least put out to the public. Generally, we say we're open to November 1st. It's all weather dependent.
Right.
Obviously, if there's snow on the courts, nobody should be shoveling it or using it, but I would not be surprised if we saw that happen. And I think as a commission, you guys should just think about it and talk about it. We don't have to vote today, but it is a thing.
But you're right, we left them open during COVID
Mhm.
in the winter and said if there's any good days, people
We
should
just
have
let them
access to
Yeah.
whatever.
But I think at some point we have to then, now that we're sort of back in less COVID restricted world, that we have to start to protect our equipment again.
Mhm.
And I worry about it from a safety standpoint too.
Yes.
You know, folks are very passionate about both pickleball and tennis, so I can see folks getting out there and trying to play on days that they probably shouldn't. And you know, folks have different ability levels too, so we're kind of opening that up a little bit for ourselves to rely on those them, of course. Or just keeping them on lots like that, you know, because especially the pickleball too, they don't even need the nets up, so if we're not locking it up, they could still use their pickleball nets and go out there and play pickleball. with tennis and
Yeah, even if we take the nets down.
Yeah, you took that down there.
Like, we just have to lock it.
If you don't mind, quick Reader's Digest version of your conversation, what were the pickleball people complaining?
Just-
Voicing their-
Also, yeah, voicing their opinions about the fact that, they go to some other communities in the area and they see pickleball courts as standard, and running in certain ways, they're free in certain places, they don't have to get badges. So I think that creates an expectation for us to provide the same amount of spaces, in the same conditions, with the same policies and procedures. Granted, you know, we have a very different setup, we have a very different system here for a reason, but, you know, some folks don't necessarily understand about certain things. So that gets mentioned. But again, I think as we continue to educate people, we get information out there. And we're just accessible, so if they have questions, they can reach out to us directly and answer those questions. I think we're doing a great job with that, but, you know, that's something that gets lost our attention in so often is what's going on in other communities. So,
What's the cost of that? Giving individual badges.
$35?
20 for senior, 45 for individuals, and.
So $45.
Yeah, 45. So they're coming up from complaining about certain things. They post how large their group is, and we have 13 people. That's not,
And
Yes.
it's comparing us to other.
and the comparing to communities and towns for. The nervous.
And I know the information, yeah, and I know the information is out there about these new policies.
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that they have to get the badges because we're shared within the group. Got many views, got many likes, so folks are in the know.
But no action.
Take that next step to actually get it, yeah.
To my knowledge, the representative that I had talked to before is now back in the States. So I think it would warrant a phone call or meeting with them this week to straighten this all out and set our expectations yet again. This is the way it has to be. Everyone needs to have a badge. And if it doesn't go through, we'll go with the actions necessary of lock the courts.
I agree. I think we should first decide, are we gonna close the courts on November 1? Because, or are we gonna keep them open, or what is the plan? Because it's hard to push a season to pass when there's only 3 or 4 weeks left. In the season. So I think we have to, I think they go hand in hand. That conversation needs to happen regardless, but if it happens for this season, then we need to know when are we closing the courts? Or are we, otherwise it's a bigger conversation for the start of next.
In regards to closing the courts, I just feel if we do close them, we're gonna have great weather. And if we don't close them, it's gonna snow. So I just feel like, I mean. November 1st, it's.
We just have a lot of equipment where like the poles are coming up out of the ground.
Right, I have seen that.
And so I need to find time to fix these things, and the ideal time is not July.
Correct.
The ideal time is now.
Yeah.
Or post decent day,
Yeah.
a decent day where we can get it done. But I also think when it does snow, racket sports are not the only thing that go on those tennis courts. Kids in bikes and wheels
Yep.
go on them, and that is not good for the court surface. And so while I 100% supported it during COVID, because I think thought it was super important, I feel less strongly about it now. Because there are more options and people can go indoors now.
Mhm.
But like I said, I don't want to get dumbed down with this conversation. I think it should be a bigger conversation. And yeah.
Okay.
In the pale orange box or purple, depending on what screen you're looking at, is an overview of our programs and our events. Spooky Walk, since I wrote this, has basically tripled, so it is going to be a very busy event. It's gonna be very exciting.
No, happening is that dress, the purple dress. Very good. You don't see that.
Yeah,
Right.
people see different colors.
I see all of it, yeah.
Right, yeah.
No, that's, yeah.
Go.
So we have some programs struggling, we're hoping that marketing changes them, we have good programs running, there are a few that were canceled, although both of them had sections, so maybe the next one will go. For the pools, Weston and Sampson gave us a quote that was attached. Probably don't want to read the bottom line, but that is why I gave it to you. I did ask the question, are you kidding me? Can't we install the stickers?
Oh, God.
The answer is no, because there's a whole process of buffing the stainless steel and attaching it with a certain thing, and then if it falls off, they're responsible versus we're responsible. And we do not have the capability of sticking anything on with a pool full, but they. So, and we were gonna save a whole lot of money in the end. I would say that, really, well, I was just like, you gotta
These are
say
the
it.
professionals.
Yeah. Professional sticker hangers.
Anyway, that's what's going on with the pool. Outdoor bathrooms are gross. I'm continuing to, the outdoor plumbed bathrooms are gross. I'm getting multiple complaints. I am working with everybody I can to figure out where this process goes. We have placed porta potties at Greens and Stefazio. I did ask about locking Stefazio, and as of now, we are not locking the bathrooms.
Because.
Because it could potentially cause our contract. It could create contract issues, because there is a contract for that. So until we can decide that we are stopping the cleaning of those bathrooms, I'm hesitant to block them.
When do we generally, I don't want to say we, it's big, we close down that building? When do we start winterizing? Okay, November 1st.
Yeah, I actually reached out. What's today, Monday?
All that.
Last week to Barry and Shannon from DPW to ask, like, to get put on their winterizing schedule to find out when. We did get a schedule. I need to adjust it a little for our needs, but I will have a more succinct date probably by the end of the week.
Okay.
So we'll know exactly when the bathrooms downstairs, any bubblers we have going, the car wash hose down at Claxton, anything that can freeze and break.
I was just gonna say, should you put some signage on the doors at the table, maybe say please use porta potties? Because the porta potties are there, right?
We can.
Yeah, so maybe we could do that, you know,
We
I mean,
can
folks will still go in,
always
at least
do
we'll
that.
try to do sort of,
Right, exactly, yeah.
you know,
No, so-
Porta potties are cleaner.
yeah.
And that was something that too. I got a message from someone saying the doors broken, and then I pull into video and their porta potty. So it's that same thing. I'm like, oh, thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Yeah, you can work.
yeah,
There are options.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no. You know better than that.
The complex at Bayview was regraded last week, or within the last week. If there is, it's still, if it is, I have not been down there, so if it is bad, still let us know and we can put that back on the schedule, but it was done.
No,
I talked to them Friday, it was done within the last 10 days.
I was down there this past weekend, it was great. I actually went to.
Yes, I did reach out to them on Friday and said, what's the plan? They're still there. Technically, they are on DPW land. They are not on our. Technically. I know that doesn't matter to the public, and the director, DPW director and I both agree, we don't want them there,
Mhm.
but that is the place that they go when they're not in use. So I did hear fewer complaints. I'm sure you saw the email where I sent out, like, please carpool, do this, do that. I haven't had as many complaints since then, so I think it's getting better, or it's getting colder and less people are going. Either way, it works out for us. But and I'm working with them on signage. I will reconnect with DPW and find out about when those things are gonna be gone. That kind of,
Do we know what the projects, the trucks are being used for? Because I know,
those specific ones, I don't.
well, I think.
I'm
one of
sure
them-
they, but
One of them was Charles River Street was being repaved, and I think that has been done. When I was down there on Saturday, half the trucks that were there the weekend before were not there anymore. There were still like, front end loaders and some flatbeds, but it wasn't as many quantity of trucks that was there the first weekend that it was at that. So maybe with the ending of a project, it could be a little bit better.
certainly, my thought is also like Highland's a disaster right now. And so if it's the same contractor, they're not gonna move the truck out and then move it back like 4 days later, so it could be staying there, I don't know, but I have a plan to touch base with DPW director this week. To get a better sense of like how long this is.
All of the neighborhoods, have you been on Central?
I-
Is it?
I don't even,
Before.
everywhere I drive, I'm like, what's that?
It's just, that you can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And the town my children live in is the same way, and I'm like,
Right. It's.
I'm like, we need hoverboards.
And we just don't want that really put this into fresh when you're talking about DPW in regards to Claxton. Rivoli is the name of the company that is using that at their work site. They've got to be better in regards to gates are wide open at night and on weekends, and anyone can walk in there. And it's just like they don't, I understand it's a construction site, but it looks like it's a more of a parking lot for equipment, and there's gonna throw stuff around there. It's gonna be the gate that's on Central, open all the time, someone can walk right in there.
They're not being
There's
respectful,
no-
they're not respectful, they didn't.
Nope. No, not at all. And again, I know it's a big job for that to do, but it just means that you're just literally dumping and going and being like, hey, we'll deal with it. And then they don't.
I will reach out to Justin, who is the PM on that, and he works in the DPW, so he is the contact, he has the contact with the bully, so I'll reach out to Justin tomorrow.
Got it. Thank you.
Tennis courts at NHS, I'm working on the bid package, I talked to Cecilia this morning, we have a scope of services that I'm tweaking. So, and then they're gonna turn it into bid language. That's similar to the rest of our stuff, so I'm working on that this week, and hopefully we'll have my needs to her by the time you get your stuff to me on Friday. So that she can run with it, they'll turn it into the right language, and then we can go out.
Perfect.
Tennis pickleball courts, the biggest concern that we had or heard of is the number of private lessons and people complaining that we are not down there fixing the issue. As you know, we do not have the staffing to stand at any of the courts all day, every day, especially on the weekends. But I'm putting it out there so you guys see things, you're aware, apparently. One of our staff members was up there, our like summer staff members, and somebody handed a business card and said, hey, it's these lessons here. Let me know if you want any. And I was like,
Wow.
God, I was like, down. And I was like, why is this when the poor kid was like, 16, I don't know what to say, I'm like, nothing, you did the right thing. So, exactly, so that is the biggest thing, we do hear complaints about pickleball taking over all 4 courts at Mills, and every time we go down there, it does not appear to be the case.
I
So
would
I-
myself one time.
So we're not changing any process internally, but I am getting complaints about it now from people that want to use the courts. there is a large group of pickleball people there. But every time I go down there, it's tennis people out there, 2 courts, and pickleball, those 2 courts, so just letting you know. The AED boxes.
Yeah.
Love it.
I talked to Dan Lee, he has the equipment. I talked to Sean Regal, it's way more complicated than we thought it was going to be, and we are working. Here is the equipment of when they tried to install it before COVID,
Mhm.
it was already somewhat older equipment. So the equipment needs a phone line or a wireless hookup so that it can call 911. I don't think the Phasio has either. And the other thing that this equipment did was if somebody opened the box, it triggered a camera and the camera took a picture, which would need to be stored in a cloud, which I don't think exists. So I'm going to work with DPW and the powers that be to find out if there was ever a phone line. And if there was, is it in use anymore? Because the electrician told us that most of Needham is wireless now. So my guess is we're gonna have to forgo what we had and start new, because I think the idea of what these would do is exactly what we need. I just don't think we have the structure, the infrastructure. We have it at Memorial, I'm not
Right,
worried
yeah,
about that.
well,
But at DeFazio, we do not have the infrastructure to make this work, so we need to figure out a better plan. But we are gonna work on getting it installed at Memorial, as long as at this point, that equipment isn't wildly. Cause.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, I need to. Anyway, so that's the update on those. It's a work in progress. Luke starts as our park ranger on Monday.
Love it.
Yeah, does he go by Lou, or does he go by King? Because I was introduced him once as King, I call him King.
I call him Luke,
Okay.
always,
Okay.
and he is.
I might ask him.
You know that.
Yeah, I can write.
Yeah.
Write it down.
We're still looking for staff and volunteers. These are the 2 links, so feel free to send them and share them and volunteer yourself if you'd like to come to an event like Spooky Law. Same thing. Our holiday staff party, which was wildly successful for our part-time staff that got in. And we have sat in 2 regional meetings now where other regions have talked about how they had to post no lifeguards with your own risk. Or how they had no lifeguards or whatever. Katie and I just got lower and lower in our seats. And we talked about the fact that we had all the lifeguards.
Oh, yeah.
We love them.
Yeah.
It's the wildly successful party that's scheduled for the Wednesday after Christmas. It is right here. If anybody's around and if you want to swing through, it'd be great. They do totally cheesy things like cookie decorating and ice cream sundae. And the staff love it. And it's like I said, it has worked out. It worked out over and over, and I'm hoping it'll bring in even more people this year, so because they know now.
And they could bring in guests too.
Yep.
We act plus one.
Yes.
Wow.
That's great.
Bring a friend
Yeah.
who has a phone, and we make them.
Get involved, get involved.
That's exactly what we
Absolutely.
do.
Uh-huh.
The QR codes everywhere.
Yeah.
Register for. And that's it on the director's report. Like I said, we already talked about the lights at the, tennis courts. That was,
Mhm.
I was trying to squeeze it in when we got.
That's fine. Quick, can I get a follow-up on, you had asked for skating instructors?
Yep.
Do we have any yet?
We have enough,
Okay,
but. Let's not forget, we're working with teenagers.
yep,
And inevitably, somebody's like, oh, I forgot I didn't make it to the last 6 sessions. So, if, especially if people are looking for volunteer hours, it's on what, Mondays and Thursdays?
Mhm.
From like 3 to 5, it's good, easy, fun, you're out there teaching the kids how to not fall over.
I did run into our former commissioner and mentioned it to him, and he had said, I saw that email that we would get it out there ASAP, so I don't know if that helped, but it was
Okay.
just fortuitous, I saw him 2 days after our last meeting.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
One comment, Stacy, you mentioned car washes. I would like to ask if in the future, when we permit car washes, if we could impress upon the groups where those teenagers need to stand. I don't normally take my trash on Saturdays, but, I did this, we usually go, on Fridays. And last Saturday, they were across the street in the exit. Yeah, yeah, and, they shouldn't be on that side of the street. And it just, first of all, it's hard to see it coming in and out of the RTS, but it's just dangerous to cross on the street.
Yeah, we need to update our rules and
Yeah,
regs.
and then earlier this year, and forget how to let it go, they were actually in Central Ave with their signs in the traffic trying to get people to stop, but people come whizzing around that corner. And, it's dangerous. I think that we need to remind the groups, and I'm assuming there are some adults.
They
Sure,
are.
They have,
That they need to keep those, and I'm calling teenagers because I think they're always teenagers, keep them.
Yeah.
Keep them on the right side of the street and keep them behind the fence because it's just so dangerous.
Mhm.
But they were right out there on the same side, on the driveway exit from the RTS with their big sign. And it's like, oh, gosh, this is-
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's so bad when I drive like the towns and I see car washes, I'm like, oh, stop, but if kids are like that, I'm like, no.
No.
Never.
Not.
Never get my car.
No, this is recorded. Sorry, folks. Any other questions on the report?
right, now going into additional discussion items. Commission goal.
So in your packet are the goals that we adopted October of last year. Look at us, right on time. And the responsibilities and liaisons, which obviously needs to be updated.
Yes,
And then I also just put in there the select board goals, so that any of their goals that align with ours or that are park and rec specific, we can decide if we align with them or not. And that will help focus our goals. So.
I have a lot of things.
Yeah.
Let's just make it.
it's a shame.
I started to do the ones.
So I don't know if, well, I'm sorry. This is-
No, please, I will welcome any feedback. from
So I don't know,
our
if this is the time where we wanna have the commission go through them, not on. Take a second homework assignment,
I do.
go through these goals about which ones we adopted last year. We had some turnover.
Hmm,
Fred, I know, has studied these at length. And is probably wondering what it means to be a liaison to the Memorial Park trustees, because that was where she might have to slot in, but we should also discuss any changes in these liaisons. Because I think Ursula, you're still CPC on it.
yes, so do we want to go through the
And then
goals first
I didn't know if you wanted to look at them
and come back? at the next
and come
meeting?
back at the next meeting and say, these three snakes should stay, these two we finished, I want to add this one, etc.
Okay,
And then if anybody wants to buy for whatever liaison they want to be, decide on that. And then also have time to look at the select board goals, which are also numerous, and see which ones apply to us, which ones we can support them on, and which ones we can help lead.
okay.
But also, if you'd like to discuss that right now, would be up to you.
I personally think we should take it home and do it. I mean, I wouldn't have time to read it over, right?
No, I agree. I think at the next meeting, we will make this I guess it's a voting item, would it be?
It would certainly be a voting
Okay.
item, so I'll put it down as a voting item.
Well,
That way
a
if we
voting
have-
item for next meeting. Everyone can start to decide it's what liaisons.
Yeah.
I take my coffee black. Okay,
All right.
So you can use these in the next package again.
Yes,
That would be
yes.
great.
Field fees and field summit.
I'll be 100% honest and tell you that I have not thought about field, I have thought about field fees at length, I have not thought about field summit. I have been entirely focused on the city.
Well, kind of.
I think we did program.
That's the voting, fee approvals
Yeah.
are the voting, but the
Okay.
discussion. This is the time to discuss it, I just haven't even tackled it, I'd like to keep it as a discussion item.
Sure.
If anybody has any,
I mean, we want to get the budget in first.
I do.
Yes, let's get that taken care of first before we start talking about it. But I think it's definitely something we should, keep on the agenda for the rest of the year. Because it's, we're gonna be going through it, and items like that. Capital projects.
I will, so everything else is in progress, I've been reaching out on some, to get some numbers for playground. I will wait until Friday to get your feedback on this feasibility. Thingy. Whatever it ends up
Sure.
being, and everything else is. Status quo, it's pretty, the SIP is pretty solid except for this. Feasibility study coverage. The budget is. A work in progress.
CPC, Dina, as your representative.
Yeah,
any
I-
update?
I don't have an update yet. I'm hoping you can help me. How do I get sworn in? Like, I reached out a couple of different times.
So Teddy,
I will send an email with the video on that to Teddy, who is,
Do I just show up?
well, you want to make an appointment.
No, you have to-
Yeah, so what I will do is I will include you, Peter Pintor, and her on this email.
Okay.
I have off the CPC and meet us and what time would be suitable for, you go down, and literally it's a minute, 2 minutes.
Okay, all right, so I need to do that. And then we'll do the thing is, I assume they'll use this, use that. Stacy, you sent your roles to them, right?
no,
Oh,
but I did talk to Kristen about it,
Okay,
so I have those in a draft, I'm
Okay.
working on that.
okay,
I'm aware of what I need to do,
Yeah. okay, oh,
I'll copy you when I do, so you
Okay.
know what that they have.
okay. Perfect.
Right. Playgrounds and facilities. How we doing with the porta place for Greensfield?
So. That's a great question.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah, we all know that's a great.
It was, I don't know if I told you, it was supposed to start on the 3rd,
Today?
yes, it was supposed to start today. It was supposed to start on the 26th,
Okay.
I bumped it to after the Harvest Fair.
Correct.
I reached out last week and just said, just making sure we're all on track, and I knew about the fact that said, we have to go for. So I reached out today to Consaldo and said, are we back on track? Can you start, because I need to start advertising this to the public.
Right,
I just sent them an email like 5 o'clock.
okay,
I'm not surprised I haven't gotten a response. In the meantime, I've worked with Cindy Roy Gonzalez about setting up a web page that is specific. It's on our web page under special projects, but any updates to green, any information, the bid documents, the pictures, everything we have. And then once the project starts, posting updated pictures and information there. And then all of our flyers that we post to green will have a QR code that they can click and it'll bring you to that page.
okay,
So we'll just funnel everybody from Facebook or actual flyers or emails right to this one page. And that's where we'll update.
Okay.
And again, I need there. I'm gonna build the page.
on a side note, when the Harvest Fair was at Greensfield yesterday, I heard nothing but great success about it. And
I will
people
not be surprised if they request that every year because from the pictures.
Yeah,
It just, it looked
Right.
great,
So much better.
Comment on Facebook, we should always have it.
Yeah,
right,
and like
Yeah.
Eddie and I don't hear that, but looking at it, it seems on it and email pictures, it's like, why would you?
There's so much space.
right. Yeah,
Nice, no, we reached out to the Y and said, hey, can you guys cancel, no, that's Spooky Walk.
Yes.
But they worked around us,
Mhm.
and then for Spooky Walk, when we're gonna take over Greens, I reached out to the Y and said, can you postpone your last day of soccer? And they were like, yeah, no problem. So they canceled their soccer that day, so that we would have all of them. So
good.
the Y is working.
But yeah, it works very, very well at Greens. Tons of attendees. The flow of it was perfect. Having Pickering shut down like that too opens up a world of opportunities too. Because you could potentially, you could potentially food truck the vendors right there, and then folks could walk right up and down. Good there. It was nice. It was good. The weather not so much.
Yeah.
The weather not something to be retired for, but yeah, the event is something else. Yeah.
What's your kind of Pickering every weekend?
Yeah.
Actually, the dangerous on the street.
Yes, yeah, especially with big lot was crossing it and bringing the equipment over and past it. It would work on this.
Yeah, no, so great job. Anything else in regards to playgrounds, facilities? Anybody? Okay,
I am working with the schools. It's funny how word travels in a small town, because I got a text from Dan Coogan and said, hey, have you been over to Broadmeadow? I hear some broken stuff over there. And I was like, no, I'll head over. And so I bumped into Andy Garlic and I was like, oh, you have some broken stuff at the playground. And he said, we do. Apparently you do. And he was like, okay, let's go check it out. So we did a walkthrough. There's a couple of things. It's nothing major, but I have a meeting on Thursday. And then I have another meeting set up for next week. I'm looking to get an on-call, basically playground mechanic. Because we have these things that are like chipping away and there's only so much I can do. And no, DPW staff isn't generally trained to do much more than swings and EWF. And Woo will eventually be, but I'm not gonna bombard him with the CPSI course the minute he starts, because it is an intensive course. So I'm looking to potentially do like an on-call like we have for the pool. So that as things come up, I'm not calling like 17 different people to be like, you do it, you do it, you do it. So I've got some quotes coming in from 3 different people. To
Good idea.
see,
So like a maintenance contract.
it's basically a maintenance contract, but it's on call. Fred has something to say. Fred, you're a panelist, so you can unmute, we can hear you.
Thanks, and I can unraise my hand, I think. I think I caught most of that. I hope I caught most of that. I've been having trouble with some of it, but in terms of playgrounds and schools, can you hear me?
yep,
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So this is kind of a micro point, and I don't know if it's in keeping with the whole thing, but I heard from a friend of mine at Newman that there is a swing that's been needing to be replaced forever, and that it was finally going to get done, but was wondering what the status was on that.
Sure. So I talked to Newman PTC. It is not as cut and dry as that, and that's what I tried to explain. So the tire swing at Newman was removed before COVID. And right now, and it was removed for 2 reasons. One, tire swings are notorious for breaking all the time because of the joint, the ball joint that it needs to be on in order to spin. And the turf underneath it has worn, and so it is no longer safe. The kid falls off any swing. So twofold, we can put a swing back, but first we have to repair the turf. In order to repair the turf, I have to find a company to cut out a piece of turf and sew back in a new piece of turf, or we have to use the playground mats that I'm looking into, but those 2 have to be cut out and placed so that it's ADA, because you can't have a lift. So it's not as simple, but I did have 2 meetings with Newman people just to give them the heads up on that, Fred.
Okay.
And they asked me to research the costs on it. I know they really want a tire swing. My kids love tire swings. I don't like them because they're so expensive and poorly made. They don't make them like they used to. It used to be an actual tire. Now it's a piece of plastic.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And that sort of thing should be on the.
Yeah. Absolutely. But again, like that came to me and I was like, yes, we need to address this. Absolutely.
Like during that time. needed on one thing.
Yes, they do. And I have a lovely child that gets very fixated, so I'm like,
I can.
we can get there. But no church company is gonna come out for a piece of square that's a 1x1 or a 4x4 square that is not worth their time. So I'm walking that on Thursday to find out how many, because around the spinning thing and under the swings probably could be used to be replaced and patched, so we're gonna walk around and see if we can get a little bang for our buck. But yes, it is fall and I've been getting a lot of emails about this is broken, which is great because now I know. But, you know, we have to chip away.
Just really quick note, jumping back really quick to the field summit, I attended the gymnasium
Oh,
summit
yeah.
the other day. We do have 2 new indoor programs down here. We have a cricket fitness as well as an indoor soccer. So we did have to concede a little bit of our time on that, and we didn't have to, it being a good gesture, we conceded some of our time. But just as a heads up, it is getting a little bit tight on the areas. We Pollard and one other location. Yes, yeah, I'll have to look back. The schedule is crazy. It's, I mean, it's on school duty, so yeah. So, but yes, so just a heads up.
Are they being run by the school? So that being run by Park and Rec, being run by someone?
No, third-party vendors. Yeah, so there's a group doing cricket and the indoor soccer is doing soccer. Yes, so that's a new program that they're actively requesting in your space for that, so. It's getting tight. Oh, yeah, every single, so all of your this.
It's not,
It's probably not new, it's just probably being to the forefront.
and it's probably sucking up time.
Because it's probably they're probably looking for more time, and so it's edging into other people's time.
I have 2 quick things that you think reminded me, going back in regards to fall programming. I noticed on some of the programs I'm struggling, like floor hockey, the multi-sport, flag football, do we know why? Is it just low numbers?
So they're all low numbers, that is a vendor, so we outsource those
Okay.
ones. They're not internal, we don't know if it's kids are like crazy schedules in the fall. Or if it's time of day, or if it's location.
Okay.
We, anything that's not at the school that your kid's at, that starts at 3:30 is really a struggle for most people. You gotta get your kid and bring a snack, drive them there, and then 12 minutes later, they want you to come pick them up, and the whole thing. So I get it.
Yeah.
But we keep trying different things. Multi-sport and floor hockey work indoors, so we're kind of hoping. I am gonna try to work with Pollard and High Rock principals to see if we can start flyering.
Yeah.
Because like, the kids don't read our emails, they don't read our brochure, but if we stick a flyer in their hand or. I'm not doing Snapchat, but like that kind of thing where they'll actually look at it, because these ones are geared for the 5th through 8th. So we need to start hitting them with a different marketing plan.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. So I've been working with Chris on that a lot because I want to see these programs be successful. A lot of them are amazing programs, right? So it's like kind of shocking, just like you kind of alluded to. We're gonna do a big push for marketing. The other thing that I spoke to them about too is talking to these organizations and making sure they're doing everything in their power to get that information out. Because of course, us being a municipality and them being a private organization, they can do a lot more things as it relates to promoting the program than we can. Even just getting out there and passing out flyers in the town center or whatever, we can't do that, but they can. So just trying to, spark those ideas because we need them to do their due diligence too. In the past, they've gotten used to us doing everything. We get requests all the time. Oh, I have a new program. We're gonna need for you guys to make us a flyer and this and that. So I'm trying to give these vendors a little bit more ownership of their programs.
They can afford to hire a design firm.
That's
Come
right.
up with a flyer, not
Yes.
being stadium going like, how does this picture look?
Yeah, exactly. So we're here essentially to provide space and of course put stuff on our social media, but everything beyond that, we really need to empower our vendors to do a bit more. And I think that's the biggest missing piece that we have right now. So, yeah, call to action.
I have an idea on that. too.
Sure.
We can talk.
Okay.
The other thing, I don't jump around here, in regards to this week. I was reminded that Wednesday there was no school. Do we have issues with kids being up at Memorial on, I know half days has been a trash issue, but if there's no school?
So I talked to Chris about this today in our team meeting. Generally, it's significantly less.
Okay,
Because they're not all coming out of a building at one time.
right.
They're like all at home,
Okay.
and then they have to like work congregate.
Mhm.
So we have had, in general, less issues when it's a full day off versus.
Okay. And weather's not supposed to be heat either, it's supposed to be kind of rainy day, so I'm gonna have to be going out. The second thing in regards to Memorial, this is just other than me, I was at the curriculum night at the high school on Thursday. Was walking through Memorial, the lights were off, and I literally had to take 20 kids off an unlit field, because they were just hanging there. Do we have anything on the sign that say, you know, there's, if the lights aren't on, you shouldn't be here?
The field girls and those of us.
Okay, so it's just, again, it just amazes me that 8:45 on a Thursday night, kids are just hanging out on a
With all
dark.
their parents in the school.
Like, they know, it's just like, it's sort of like, I think I'm hearing voices. I'm like,
I mean, why would
I-
I the same field that their parents?
I don't know.
I was just saying, I have a feeling they prefer it dark like that.
Yes.
They all-
Yeah, I know, I had to use it to make sure I'm careful with it, so, definitely, but all right, that's all I got about that in regards to playground. Yes, Cindy.
With regards to playgrounds, can we put on our agenda a discussion about, the playground issue? I know we have Commissioner, Fred, who has suggested we may want to have one premier playground. And, I don't know that I agree with that, but I'm very willing to talk about that. And I think that should be a discussion by the commission. We want to put all of our, or many of our resources towards one playground and make it, you know, a stellar playground. We want to spread the resources
Okay.
and have them not stellar, but be just very good.
I would make a note to add it to the next agenda.
Okay, I don't know if the next one is the best one, but I don't want to lose sight of that.
In
That's
whatever,
the
yes,
discussion.
I generally will look at the agenda and see how full it is and then bump it. Fred, you're up, but you're muted.
Yes, no, I just wanted to clarify, I'm not advocating necessarily for one premium playground. I was just in meetings past asking whether one or another option made sense. So I think in terms of discussing it further and figuring out what the right way to go is, makes, you know, it's a good idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. I want to be respectful. I thought you were advocating, but if you're not, it's still a good discussion to have. I think that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what I took from it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you wanted to focus your energy on one part, making sure that we get it to the top standard, not necessarily making it the premier, but focusing all energy on that one playground to make sure it's at the top standard, and then we can shift to the rest of them, instead of trying to spread ourselves thin, trying to do multiple projects at the same time. Nothing is great, they're all just good. We can actually get one to a great standard, folks can go there and start enjoying that while we be working on the others. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
Well, it was more that I wanted to think through which approach made the most sense because they are all at varying levels of disrepair. So the question was, do we go around and just patch things constantly, or depending on cost, like I have no idea, there's so many variables at play, but you know, which is most cost efficient and where do we want to spend the time and energy, you know, whether it is to make one really, you know, new and fresh and safe and, you know, up to code, and then go back and try to update the others, or, you know, it's, again, it's just that there's a lot of things to look into before making that decision, but I wasn't saying that one was the right way to go or another. It was more, I think we should determine, again, as a commission, what makes sense for the town.
Thank you.
Did that make sense?
Yep,
Good job.
thank you.
All right, any other?
I have a question
Go
about,
ahead.
I don't remember what we did last year, so the 12th is a half day, so not this Wednesday, following one. We're doing, so you still have me is doing that clinic collaboratively with the high school.
Yeah.
And then I'm donating all the proceeds to the high school.
Yeah.
I think last year, because we're doing it from 1 to 2:30, I was on Dan permit, but I don't remember.
We would still need to have Dan or you request it because it's out, you would still get it.
Yeah.
Because it's within the permit, but it's outside of typical, so we just need to know where.
Okay.
Um,
So
because
just shoot me an email or?
just shoot me an email,
Okay,
because sometimes on half days, other coaches will request earlier practices.
Yeah,
So we wanna know when he's using this stuff.
I'll do that tonight.
Okay.
Awesome, and I guess. I can bring this up recently, and so I'm dealing with some health issues, I've been struggling with severe migraines, dizziness and vertigo randomly. So I am not feeling great, but I will hang in if we have, things to go on.
You get active,
That's where we're at.
we'll jump right into the next ones.
Okay.
You good with that?
Awesome, so just bear with me while I figure this out and work with the neurologist, the end of this week to figure out what's going on, so I'm not slacking, I'm just not very well.
Oh,
It's okay.
Glad that you're here.
I'm glad I'm here too, Chris.
Oh.
I'm not.
All right, okay, let's get the signal out of here. All right, if there's nothing else going on in regards to playground facilities, let's go to our action item of approvals. Where we need to have this, so we'll go down to the special event booster club sales. That is going to be on.
32.
27.
So essentially, it's identical setup as they did last.
Sure.
Same cost, same location, almost the same exact dates. Just to give you that.
Is it?
Does he sell a lot of trick or treat after Christmas?
No, they sold out.
I was
before.
just gonna ask that.
So he has it until the 14th.
Yeah, that's
January.
just gonna ask.
They, each sport group, I think, signed up to do like a night of sales that they had canceled the last week because they sold out Christmas.
You're
trees.
done.
No, but they're like, it's going through the 14th of January, like.
On his request.
I think that.
Clean up, they didn't do like-
Oh, we have to get the truck out.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I don't know if they're doing that. But I'm sure they need it beyond. Which you might know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, did you reach them?
I don't.
Yeah, you, I think that, later and.
So we can do these,
Yeah.
some cities instead of one.
Quick question, Bill, do you know the water main project, will it be slated to be done by then?
All right.
It is slated to be done by early November.
It's another location.
Well, no, I mean, they don't.
We're running programs out of there.
Yeah.
So it's not,
It's
not low, it's like-
Okay.
I mean, there's 12 other construction projects. What else are we gonna put in?
Yeah.
Right.
So, all right.
So is it every Saturday or like, is it every day from November 16th through January 14th?
From how I read the request, it was every day. I'm sure it's not all day.
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, okay, okay,
They're not active, obviously.
Yeah.
yeah, oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I would, Mr. Chairman, the motion that we approve the special event, Christmas tree sales for the NHS Booster Club for the dates.
Motion in a second. Do we have any further discussion? All right, hearing none.
You have to do a roll call.
That's what I was gonna say, we're gonna do a roll call. So I will go down the line. Cindy Chaston, Michelle Geddes. Stephen Hannigan.
Aye.
Fred Lalonde.
Say it again.
Fred.
Oh, should we know? She's.
How about a thumbs up? Can you give us a thumbs up?
Oh,
That was a yes.
That's a yes, all for a face. The chair is also yes, so passed unanimously. So the next request we have up. Wow, this is
They're ready.
they're ready. Yeah, they're ready on 2023. Jog your memory.
Wait, for real?
Yeah. But they just doing this for.
I already the town manager's office, the police,
Yeah.
we waited, and it's like, they're ready.
so they've been very, they're very organized, super smooth.
Yes.
Once we get the permits, we'll get them.
Yeah.
Yeah, make a motion to approve.
Nope, just say Dr. Member.
Doug Harmon.
Perfect. Do I have a second? Second, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call vote, Cindy Chaston,
Aye.
Michelle Geddes, Dina Hannigan,
Aye.
Fred Lamont.
Is no longer present, so
Well,
she
we
will
have-
abstain.
She will abstain. I will also, vote aye, so it passes. Well,
Most
four,
likely.
yeah, passes with one abstain. The other item that you have on there, which we'll have, is late, no late submittals.
So we do have fall fee recommendations. If you want to go through the list, you can do a bulk approval.
Yeah,
It's
down.
turn, it's turn, it won't turn.
Darren, I can't turn it on the package.
It's not.
Oh, I thought that it would be. Yeah, thank you.
For 7 days, shot, it'll-
It's not, if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a call, yeah.
Usually I can turn it.
You have to download it first. If you're just looking at a preview screen, you gotta download it first.
Oh, whatever.
Rotates.
So are we doing a full approval of this? Is that what's
You can,
happening?
you can do each individual, or you can do one big blanket for all of the 20.
It's like you said,
involved.
Jenna, you can pull one out if you want to discuss it, or you can approve.
I'm guessing it's NA for a bunch of these new, it's 20.
So- No, the ones that are NA are new programs.
Oh,
They're
got it.
offering for the
Okay.
First time, so they weren't offered in 21, there's no cost.
Okay.
per se.
Oh, wow.
They are,
Yeah.
yeah, we were,
And
very.
Work on
awesome.
it next year.
Yeah, some of these have-
Here, I'll make a move.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
The 2022 fall fees as written.
I have a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay,
And we haven't, so just two quick questions, or actually one question about a few items at the bottom. So the tennis, basketball, badminton and volleyball, those that I'm assuming have not been brought up in years, is that?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, very, very long time.
okay,
We brought it up from like $2 and change,
Yeah.
per occurrence up to 5.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how we came up with these numbers.
Yeah. yes.
Just so you guys have an
Yeah.
idea, but that's the, looking at the per occurrence cost, is the best way to get it.
Yes.
Really, how much it really costs.
And for those ones that are like those adult programs that you're referring to, they
Yeah.
do not cover our costs currently.
Oh,
But we have to get it. You can't go from $2
Yeah.
per class to whatever,
Yeah,
because
just-
we do have staff. fees, so.
yeah.
Yeah, still not where they need to be, but where they should. be.
And then that's
getting-
parking, parking, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, most of them, some are not, like the NA Sports League is not.
no, but then.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I'll send that.
Just one more thing. But I think by the fall, we have other discounts by the fall program. Do we have a lot of overlap in programming and we have local nonprofits?
No, we generally don't, and Mass, so Mass Sports League is the company that we use, and we discuss, like, they're like, what about this, what about this? The flag that they're offering is very like, one day a week.
yes.
Yeah,
Very like younger grade to see if like, it's like a taster,
Yeah.
basically, so we were like, well, it's fall, let's try it.
That's right.
Every season, they're like, how about this one, how about this one, so we don't often run the same things with them unless they're.
Yeah, and they're not leagues either, essentially, so it's non-competitive, a lot of them are things.
Yes.
It's a very
Yeah.
supportive.
that's actually good, yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't, we try not to duplicate anything that we do, and we try not to duplicate anything that's in town.
Right.
Unless there's like a significant availability. Like, we might run a STEM program and so does NCE, but they're different STEM programs. But we try not to step on it, it's toes, the town, just not have.
No, but I think it's a good idea, like I was just saying to Vivian, like I would ask all the time, if I have people who just try it out. And
Yeah.
not sign for all those seasons, so I think it's a good idea.
Well, that's what a lot of that happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, see how it's truly interesting.
Yeah.
For your best hundreds of dollars.
Especially-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, we have a motion in a second. Do we have any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote, and Fred was text to say you got kicked out, so you're gonna try to get back in.
He has no concerns.
Okay, no concerns, fantastic. Roll call, Cindy,
Aye.
Michelle, Dina,
I,
Chair is also in an aye, and I'm assuming,
Waiting, but yes.
okay, approved, fantastic.
you should. Oh, I see.
Fred's also an aye, that's 5-0.
Five, oh, all right, let's do the meeting minutes. That's the meeting say to it.
Excellent minutes. I would make the motion that we approve the minutes of the September 19th, 2022 meeting.
Motion, do I hear a second? Motion is second, all right. Any further discussion on the minutes of the meeting of September 19th? All right, hearing none, roll call vote, Cindy,
Aye.
Michelle, Dina,
I,
I'm also an aye, and Fred
An aye.
is aye, 5-0, approved. Finish up. Topic for future meetings, I think we talked about adding some big already to the agenda.
Fred said, I bet this is exactly how our forefathers ran meetings. I'm like, do you vote yes or no?
All right, any topics for future meetings? Nothing? Okay.
Just.
Well, one big part that we haven't discussed so far.
And feel free to.
yes.
Yes, we'll be.
Yeah, please start thinking about it. This is a big topic.
No,
Yes.
There's a lot of moving parts and, yeah, new goals and so on.
Yeah,
Catch up with-
Yeah.
Mhm.
For this.
Okay. Michelle has one.
Well, we are a goal. Maybe not really, I think. Update or just check in with them. It was saying one quarter. we check in.
Have any of the liaisons reached out to them?
And we don't-
Why?
Who's the liaison?
Well, I mean, I will say no news is good news,
Yeah.
Oh, you can feel something. We have. Yeah, great job.
We didn't bring it in.
I would say that for most of these organizations, Fabian either Fabian or I touch base with them, there's been no issues, obviously, if there was, we would reach out to whichever liaison the correct one, and then go from there, but you are also welcome to reach out to them, see if they have any things they want to bring to us.
No, I think it's fine. I just worry. I don't think the last is long.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're getting down, like, from what I know, in the cloud project is pretty much all.
That's what I was gonna say. I just met with them for almost 2 hours the other day. The big points were the cloud project, moving forward, so no pickups or any roadblocks in sight, and then the project over at Claxton, he's expecting a photo for that. There was nothing else really.
Right.
The only update I have on that was pass ahead left, what's moving.
Oh.
Too bad. Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, too.
Yeah, I'm sure they're, yeah, I don't know where, when, but anytime I have been connected with. It was, casting some guys in month.
Didn't have it.
No, so Eddie and I have been connected with the new person.
Okay.
And I actually met him at the conference that I was at.
I do think you tell him, was your question, we did see Eddie a number of times, we'll say about softball.
Yeah.
This is 2 to 4 times a year. We certainly have talked to them twice, but you're right. The idea is that we look at it and
We'll get check in.
No,
That's fine.
just for you guys, just so you know, so Kate and I meet with DPW monthly. So we meet with Cecilia and Kevin,
Okay,
and then it's him and I. So we do go over like, what are the projects, where are we at, all the things. So we do meet monthly.
good.
And so it's fair to see that we get caught up.
For sure, and if you guys have any particular questions too, I mean, before we get them in here for a meeting, just shoot over an email if I can get you.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything.
Okay.
Okay.
Issues not briefly anticipated, Dina, you brought up that, so this Wednesday, there's no school, but the following Wednesday is a half day.
Correct.
Can we put in a request to maybe have an officer drive by during the day or something just to see what the kids are, or, oh, wow.
It's first through eight half
Well, yeah.
day. It won't be at the morning, until first through eight.
Okay.
They'll be in the trees at the conference.
Yeah.
What you call?
you know, they.
Yep. All right, moving on. All right, next meeting, we have Wednesday, October 26th, Monday, the 14th of November, November 28th, and then December 12th. When is special town meeting again?
24th of October.
Got it.
Which is why we're not meeting on Monday, we're meeting on Wednesday.
Perfect. Do we see anything coming down the pipeline for us that we might have to speak about at all town meeting?
I think only if we're asked to be in a position on the purchase of the land. And the house.
Yep.
Oh,
I
right.
don't know that that will happen, but we might be asked.
But we've also voted and
Voted in favor for, so.
What else is on in the warrant, actually? Didn't read the warrant.
Anything else to go over? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Adjourn. Thank you, everybody. No.
Roll call.
Oh,
Fred,
Hi.
Thank you. Cindy, Michelle, Tina, I am also an I. Passes unanimously. We are adjourned for the night.